Grandma's Kitchen.
There's a fiddle tune and a wooden spoon while she's stirring and singing. There's friends leaving or family land, and then the phone's usually ringing. No matter who you are or what you've done, everything's forgiven.
Thank God. Thank God.
Thank God. Grandma's Kitchen. And ain't it good to be in Grandma's Kitchen?
Grandma's Kitchen.
Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year. It's so nice to see you all. I really missed doing this last Sunday. Who would have thought that, it would be nice to have a Sunday off? But anyway, I'm so happy to be back and so happy to be with all of my good friends. And thank you for all the nice notes and little messages that you sent me. And I should first say, hi, it's Mary Janet here from Tunes and Wooden Spoons. And yes, we now have some snow, but there's not very much. It melted quite a bit this week. So we're off to a new year, 2021. I swear it's going to be a good one, isn't it? There's going to be lots of good discoveries and healing and new adventures hopefully come maybe fall before we can really get into the swing of things. But I'm going to stay with you until this is done, and we'll see what happens after that. So how are you all? It's so nice to see you. Today I'm making coffee cake, or as I call it, coffee tea cake. There's no coffee in coffee cake. Who knew? But I guess that's a Canadian or American thing. It's a little light cake to have with your coffee. In my case, it's tea, so I couldn't put the title in until I put my stamp on it and put tea in there. So it's a coffee tea cake. And there's lots of little variations that you can do with this coffee cake. It's pretty plain. The one thing I believe about this cake is, for me personally, I only like it on the day that I make it. And if you're using an 8x8 pan and you're having, someone in for tea or family together, it's just enough. And really after that, it's not my absolutely favorite thing, but it's something nice. I think of a friend of mine, her name was Ida, and she passed away many years ago. I should know the year, but cancer, of course. But we were fast friends from the time I moved to Port Hood and married, and she was only married a year then too, and we did a lot of stuff together. And she'd call up and she'd say, you know what? I want to come for tea. What do you have? She was very direct and very blunt, and she made me laugh more than anyone I know. She was just, what you saw was what you got, and she just cracked me up so many times. So I knew that was the cue. No matter how many kids were around the kitchen or in the living room, I had to make something to have with my tea. And you know what? I usually make this coffee cake, and I really seriously haven't made it in a long time. So we're going to do it together. I was at Bernice's this week, my sister in Antigonish, and so I made the coffee cake over there, and I tried it with the apple in it, and you can take it or leave it. It just depends on your palate. And the one I made at Bernice's, I decided to put half the batter in the pan and then put some of the topping in there, and then put the rest of the batter in, and put the rest of the topping on the top. But that's not the way I used to make it. So today I'm going to make it the way I always made it. And anyway, oh, it's so nice to see you all. And so I'm going to get started. I'm going to wash my hands in a moment. But before I start, there's a very special young baker, McKenna. And I want to say a special hello to McKenna. She's a young baker, and she sent a little video clip that her brother Ronan took of her being Tunes and Wooden Spoons in a most delightful and beautiful kitchen layout. And she was saying, hi, welcome to Tunes and Wooden Spoons. And she had a little chef cap on, and she sent it to her grandma. Her grandma is a follower, and I'm sorry, I should have looked up her name beforehand. But she just thought it was so cute that she sent it to me, and I just loved it. I just delight in the fact that if anything, if this little Sunday afternoon is helping inspire young minds to say, well, I can bake, you know, or I'm going to give a hand at that. There's young boys that are baking, and there's young girls. I hear from the moms all the time, and they bake with their grandmas. And isn't that a great thing to inspire and encourage? Because you know you can put that to good use. And the young men, if they're baking, that's a good way to woo a young lady into their heart down the road, if you have that skill. So anyway, I'm going to get started. I'm going to wash my hands, and I'll be right back with you. And of course, I have my favorite tunes on today. It's my Falcha CD and Airs and Waltzes, and I so love it, and it's just so comforting to me. It's my go-to one, as you all know, I'm sure, anybody who's watching. And so what else was I going to say there? It's gone. You know how that happens. Oh, yes, I was going to say, I better put my little microphone on here, my trusty little microphone. I wanted to say something about customer service. Sometimes you get great customer service and you say, well, you know what, I'm going to go back there. So I had a little experience this week when I went into a store with someone who really didn't want to be in the job. And then 20 minutes later, I went to this store, Staples in Antigonish, and there was a young man there who was the sweetest and the nicest young man in the world. And he helped me with a question I had about, you know, wireless microphone, Bluetooth, whatever. And we decided that perhaps these new, what are they called? AirPods, I think. They're an expensive item or whatever, and see if that might work. So I had a little taste of how that worked, but you know what, we tested it out, but it really didn't do the job. So I'm going to move further on that, but for now I'm going back to my old trusty little microphone here, and hopefully I won't trip over it too much. But to that young man, you know, Staples, you got a good fellow there, and just so pleasant and nice, and that it means everything if somebody goes the extra mile to be your to help you, right? Okay, I'm going to turn the camera down, and we're going to start making the coffee cake. I got my favorite blue bowl as well, always. And we're going to start in the largest bowl with 1/3 of soft butter, or shortening, or I'm using Basil. And I'm not getting anything for that because, you know, as you know, they sponsored a show, but seriously, that's what I would use anyway. So I'm using 1/3 cup of Basil, because it's nice and soft and ready to use. Now somebody, I recognized there that somebody asked, what CD was that? Because maybe they haven't been watching since the start of the show. That CD is called Falcha. Falcha is a Gaelic word for welcome, and it's a Gaelic word that here in Cape Breton, that many people often use as a welcome. And there is a Celtic Music Interpretive Center that is in a neighboring community called Judic, and they have a beautiful gift shop, and it's an online gift shop, and they've put out a series of these Falcha CDs, and how to spell Falcha is F-A-I-L-T-E, and the particular Falcha CD that I'm playing is called Airs and Waltzes. Others are jigs and reels and I'm not sure all that it encompasses, but if you're ordering online, go to Celtic Music Interpretive Center and you will find their store. Okay, next, besides the basil, we're going to add 1/4 cup of white sugar. Oh, you know what? I forgot to preheat my oven. Sorry, folks. It's a 350 oven. There we go. So 1/4 cup of white sugar. 3/4 cup of white sugar. I better view my recipe a little bit bigger. I said, oh, you know what? That doesn't sound very good. Okay, zoom. There, 3/4 cups of white sugar. So this is a 1/4 cup measure, so that's now a half, and there is 3/4. So you're going to mix that up. When I am mixing, I like using the back of the spatula when I'm mixing sugar and butter together. And I have no music today, no musical guests today. I did have a musical guest for last Sunday. Lisa Cameron was going to be coming back, but she couldn't come today because of hockey, and that is our world sometimes around all parts of Canada, and she has a couple of boys that are very much into hockey. Okay, so that's mixed well enough, and now you're going to add an egg. And you're going to add some vanilla, just a teaspoon. And just mix that up. So when this is in the oven, or it's going to be in the oven for about 40 minutes, but really watch that. When I was at Bernice's, I took over the ingredients to, most of the ingredients to make the squares, or the coffee cake. And I took my 8-inch square pan, and you know what? I never make this coffee cake in my square metal pan. I really like my Pyrex pan, which is not square. It's an oblong one, which I'll show you in a minute. It's not a 9x13, but I rather that. And I'll show it to you in a minute. So we're gonna just set that aside, and we're gonna get our dry ingredients ready. And in here, we're going to put 1.5 cups of flour. Do you know, we had Mitchell and his two boys, the two youngest boys, over for breakfast after church this morning, like a brunch. And while they were here, we had a visit from very good friends of ours that, you know, just came to the door. And if anybody over Antigonish Ways knows Mark, Pettipaw, and Elaine, they were here. This is the first time we saw them since the new year. And came in the door. It's 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, by the way. They came in the door and he was holding a 10-kilogram bag of flour. And he said, Happy New Year. That's the kind of friends to have. Oh, they're great people. Okay, so in here, it's 1.5 cups of flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I'm just gonna put a little bit of salt on my palm there. And I'm just gonna mix that up. I'll probably mix it with the whisk. I just didn't take the whisk over with me here. That's perfect. And for the wet ingredients, you're going to need 3/4 cups of milk. Now, I put in, when I typed up the recipe, use anything you have in the fridge that's milk-based. Like if you have some sour cream left over, use a little bit of sour cream and bring it up to the 3/4 with the milk, up to the 3/4 cup with milk. And or, you know, you might have some plain yogurt. That would be great. And it wouldn't hurt if it was vanilla yogurt. If you're, don't let those things go to waste. Or even, you know, you might have some whipping cream or blend cream or coffee cream that's just getting to the date. Put you know, a 1/4 cup of that and fill it to 3/4 with just whatever milk you have. Don't worry about that. It's a good thing to use that. So we have here our dry ingredients, and we're going to now go back to our main bowl, and we're going to take our 3/4 cups of milk and our dry ingredients. And you know, you always probably have done this when you're alternating wet with dry. You're supposed to start and end with your dry ingredients. So yeah, I think I remember learning that in 4-H, not 4-H, but in home economics. But of course, 4-H, we had 4-H. I used to be a leader here. I'm going to add about 1/3 of my dry ingredients here. I'm going to mix that up. And just mix slowly. Do you know that when you're making this, I would say this is something like a quick bread in many ways. It's like a kind of like a muffin texture to it. I would, you just mix until it's combined, because if you beat a batter like this, it might raise really nicely, but then when you take it out of the oven, sometimes it'll just sink down. I'm going to add about half of my dry ingredient, my milk, my wet ingredients. Okay. And just stir enough until combined. I only took my Christmas decorations down yesterday. Is there anybody out there that still has their Christmas decorations up? I just hated to part with them. Everything looks so bare. But the one good thing is the living room and everywhere got a good cleaning. Vacuuming and all of that stuff. Okay, now add half of what you have left here of your dry ingredients. I'm not sure, but I do believe that the fiddler that's playing there might be Winnie Chafe. I'd have to go look. There are various artists on that CD, and we lost dear Winnie Chafe just maybe a month or so ago, and she was living over in Sydney. But what a beautiful, artistic, graceful fiddler she was. Okay, and now the rest of your wet ingredients. And the rest of your dry ingredients. That's pretty much it. I'm just going to mix that, make sure I'm not seeing any real big lumps in that. All right, now we're going to put that right into the pan I was telling you about. So I have here a piece of parchment paper that I'm going to use. This is my pan. It's 8 by 11.5 times 2 inches. So that's what it says on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray it a little bit. And I'm just going to lay this in and just drape it over the sides. Like that. And I'm going to put all of the batter in. If you are at this point and you'd like to half it and put some topping in the middle, that you feel free to do that. Okay, we're good. Now we are going to make the topping. Okay, we're going to take some soda crackers. Mine are unsalted, but in the past, I have used salted, so you use whatever you have. You could probably have something similar if you don't have these. These are just premium soda crackers. I have them in a baggie, and I am just going to squash them with a rolling pin. There, that's good enough. And you end up with, it's about a cup of crushed soda crackers or whatever crackers you're using. You're looking for about a cup. And you're going to put a half a cup of brown sugar. And you're going to put a teaspoon of cinnamon, or I'll probably put a heaping teaspoon in. I love cinnamon. And just mix that up. I love using my hands, as you all know. Into that, and you don't have to do this, you can put some walnuts. I'd say probably about a third of a cup or something like that. I love the crunch of walnut. And one of the options, like I said at the beginning, that you could cut up an apple and dice an apple and put it right into your batter, and you'd have put that in the batter that's already in the pan. And but I just like it kind of plain, and I just dress up this with some walnuts. Now into this you're going to put some melted butter or margarine or basil. So it's a third cup, and I'm going to do that right now. So about a third of a cup. Put that into a dish here, and I'll just melt it. It'll take maybe 20 or 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Yeah, that took about 20 seconds. And this is basil. It was already soft, so maybe your butter will take longer. So we're just gonna pour that over it. Just until you see that the melted butter is kind of well mixed in. All right. Now you're just going to put all of this all over the top. So while this is in the oven, we're going to have a lot of time to talk. And I said, since I hadn't, Mitchell was looking after the boys, and Laura's gone with the oldest boy to hockey in Guysborough. Oh, by the way, you're going to press this down, kind of into the batter, but not hard, just so that it kind of will take together. And that's all there is to it. So 40 minutes, but watch carefully. You know, I'd start checking at 30 minutes, 35 minutes, and start inserting the cake thing, and we'll do that together. But I find the glass pan, if you have an 8x8 glass pan, it's much more forgiving, a softer heat, I think, similar to a stoneware pan than a metal pan. So you have to really watch that it doesn't, you know, kind of scorch on you. Okay, be right back. Hello, everybody. I'm just going to move around the other side of the table. So I'll be there in a second. There you are. Hi, Joyce. Joyce Wombold Sieberer from Windsor, Ontario. I have family in Windsor, Ontario. Yes, I did that, the half of the filling and all of that. Hi, Anne McComb. She's a good friend. You know what? You probably would get the same crunch with rolled oats. Because similar, if you have butter and brown sugar and rolled oats, it's similar to like an apple crisp. And I've been using the same apple crisp recipe for years. Very, very, very simple. And I didn't decide what to make for next weekend. Would you like apple crisp? I'm not sure. There's two things that I was debating whether to make next week, and one was Cheryl Menard from Rougemont. Hi. And I was thinking of apple crisp, and I was thinking of a multigrain bread that I make. Thank you. So anyway, I'll decide in my mind unless I see one thing or another there for one thing or another. So I just wanted to keep January's kind of not so sweet. Yes, to apple crisp. Well, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do the apple crisp because that's what I saw first from somebody there. And I'll do apple crisp. It's simple and it's easy and it's great to do within, you know, an hour or so show. Hold on, there's somebody at the door. Come in.
Hello.
Hello.
Everything.
Hi, Larry. I'm live on Facebook on my baking show. Cecil's gone watching football.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, see you. This is life. You never know. Okay, so apple crisp. And that's what I'll make next Sunday. But anyway, I was talking to Mitchell, and like I said, they were over here for brunch. And he said, Mom, you know, you have so many questions from some people. Some people do write me, whether it's on my Gmail, Tunes and Wooden Spoons account, or on my personal Facebook page, or on Tunes and Wooden Spoons, whatever, and just asking about the culture and about my experience with step dancing. And so I thought, you know what? Maybe I will do that today. If you know, as we're waiting for it to cook, we'll talk a little bit about my experience and what I've done with dancing over the years. And so just to answer a couple of questions that I've seen on there, yes to apple crisp next Sunday, and yes to the multigrain bread, which I will make maybe the following weekend, or I'll definitely make it here in January. So for those who are close to a bulk barn, look there for the 5-grain cereal. I don't know what it's called, but it's a mix of grains. You know, there's a 5-grain and there might be a 7-grain there, whatever, wherever you're close to. And also there's there's a multigrain mix that, what's that product called? Is it Bob Mills? It makes a lot of the natural gluten-free flour and all of that. He or that company make a great multigrain mix that you can make in multigrain bread. This bread, which I'll make in a couple of weeks or before the end of January, it's we really like it because it's you cook it at a higher temperature and you've got this really chewy crust on it. And I've altered the recipe just a tad to suit myself. I put about maybe 2 tablespoons of molasses in it, just to give it a little hint of sweetness. And anyway, and Red River cereal is great. There is a Red River cereal bread that my cousin makes. I've never made it, but I bet you it's very, very similar. Multigrain bread or cereal. Somebody asked a question, and yes, it's Bob's Red Mill. That's the product that he has. Some multigrain grains. We're making bread. We're not making cereal, but when you're shopping for the grains at Bulk Barn, if you're close to one, you'll find that there. And there's so many wonderful people on here who know the source of that in your province or wherever you are. And all I do in this recipe, I put the grains in a bowl and then you put boiling water on top of it and you leave that until it kind of settles down to a lukewarm temperature before you can start adding the yeast. So mine, I wish I knew what was in my grains. Let me see if I'm going to go get my grains and see if I wrote on it. Sometimes I do that. This darn microphone. Okay, so my multigrain, I thought that I might have written it down, but this is my multigrain. Can you see that? The consistency of that. I'll actually take some in my hand and maybe you can see it more clearly, because this is what you would shop for. And mine is a 5-grain. That's what the mix looks like. I don't know if you're able to see that very clearly, but it's just it's a nice wholesome bread. It's great toasted. Okay, so There's a couple of things I want to talk about before I talk about my experience, Cape Breton experience with dancing. And yes, I do have a good recipe for sweet and sour meatballs, but I'll get back to that. At some point, I might get into leaving the muffins, bread, sweets thing, which has kind of been my thing. And because, you know, I really don't know how long we're going to be doing this. I just have to take a little bit as it comes. I'm not a great... I have certain dishes that I make for my family, like chili, and cabbage rolls, and sweet and sour meatballs, and you know, I do a few chicken dishes. But you know what? Cecil does the cooking. He loves the meal preparation and loves making the big meat and potatoes kind of veggie kind of thing. And what I make when I do have family or visitors in, which we haven't done in a long time, there's certain dishes that I like to make, and I'd like to make them with you. And but I'm not as confident in that as I am in my baking. But you know, we could do it together and see how it works and all of that. So we'll touch that base on that. But the first thing I wanted to tell you before I get into the step dancing things, and I'll stop looking at the questions and whatever, but is for Christmas, one of the gifts from my daughter-in-law and son, Brennan, was a book. Have any of you ever heard of this author? I have read every book that she has had out. The author's name, she lives in Cape Breton. I'm not sure. I don't know her background well enough to be strong on this, but she lives in Cape Breton for many years now, and she writes these amazing books. I'm telling you, can't put them down. And a lot of them are kind of based in a community in Cape Breton, Lace Bay, you know, Bedeck, you know, but they're, if you have any Cape Breton roots, for sure, you will love this. And her name is Leslie Crew. Now, this is going to be backwards, I think, but it's Leslie Crew. But this is the book, The Spoon Stealer. The base of the story, it takes place in England, but she is from, in the book, the person that the main character is from Pictou County. And she does, in this book, visit Cape Breton, but it wasn't a great visit by any means. But it you know, you just take that with a grain of salt, because she is an amazing writer. If you have the chance, she's the Globe and Mail have given it the bestseller stamp. You know, she had a book, Relative Happiness, which is now an award-winning feature film. Look her up, Leslie Crew. You won't be able to put it down. I read it over 2 days, and there was at some point I was crying so much, just on a couple of issues there, and then a couple of other pages I was just laughing out loud. And there's not, I just, you know, you have to get it. You have to get it. And you have to get her other books. And some of them are downloadable, I've heard. I think my sister-in-law in Michigan, Romeo, Michigan, definitely got that as a gift sometime. Yes, Mary Hannigan, she just finished reading it too. Wasn't it great? I just loved it. Oh, she's great. Hi, Donna Sayer. Hi, Kate Goss. Oh, all these beautiful people. So anyway, I am going to tell you a little bit about me and my experience in my other life. There was a time. So I'll just give you a brief history of me for those that may not know, because I kind of did this one other time, I think, but I was born and raised in Mabu, and my mother died, as many of you already know, when I was 3 years old, and she left 5 children. So our father was able to care for the 3 oldest who were school age, and myself and my brother went to 2 homes right in Mabu of our grandaunts who already had their own families. So I was raised by my grandaunt, and my brother was raised with another grandaunt, but we were all in the same community, and we all stayed close, and as adults we became even closer, and so it was a wonderful thing. But the house that I went to was the home of Maggie Ann Beaton and Red John Beaton, or John Rua, which was read in Gaelic. And it was a musical household. You know, they loved music, and Gaelic was their first language. So whenever they didn't want me to understand something, they spoke in Gaelic. But Maggie Ann and John became my parents. I had a mommy and a daddy, and I still call them that because, you know, we didn't have them for very long. Mommy died at 37, daddy died at 54 when I was in grade 11. But I remained all my life with Maggie Ann and John, whom to me and their 6 children are my sisters and brothers, as well as my own blood sisters and brothers. And Maggie Ann and John were my mama and papa. So when I talk about mama and papa, I'm referring to the couple that raised me. And so their house was always full of music, and one of their sons, it was one of the first people in the area, I think, to get one of those reel-to-reel tape recorders. And they would many times have the neighbors in, and Mama would have a lot of her friends in who all were Gaelic singers or loved to sing English songs and Irish songs. And I remember, if you've heard of Janelle and Cameron, well, Janelle and Cameron's mom used to come to one of those Gaelics, and they'd have tea. And those were the days when you'd have a bottle of rum or whiskey or brandy, and you had a little shot glass. I can still see the shot glass from home. It was about that tall, but narrow. And there was no such thing as a mixed drink. They would pour the shot into the shot glass, and you would go around the room with a shot of alcohol in it, just straight. I don't know if that's why I don't drink. I can't stand the taste of alcohol or wine or beer or nothing, but I don't mind anybody else, and God knows my kids have had their share of that, celebrating and whatever. And Cecil too, he loves his vodka. But then it was rum or whiskey, and usually dark rum, not the white rum. But anyway, that was kind of the scene, all sitting around. And I remember my granduncle, Mama's brother, would come over from Boysdale. He worked for the CNR Railway, and he would sing beautiful Gaelic songs, and he also would recite Gaelic stories called, I'm pronouncing it probably wrong, I think it was called a Scialach. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but it was some kind of a story. And he'd repeat that. Any visit, he'd come over, and everybody would listen intently, and they would I knew when the funny parts were coming, because it was a build-up, and everybody would laugh. And I remember one being about a pig or something like that. It was just so funny. And so anyway, and there'd be fiddle players come sometimes. There was regular fiddle players that would come and play. And Mama was a step dancer. And a step dancer just in the house, right? Not whatever. But her father, he was Big Dan Cameron, or better known as Don Moore in Gaelic. Moore meaning big, and Don meaning Donald. And I'm saying that wrong too. I didn't get the Gaelic. I came along too late. Mama and Papa already had their 6 children, and there was 10 years. They were in their teens when I came along, the youngest of the family. So in that group of 6 children, Minnie was the second youngest, and Minnie was already step dancing out in concerts. And you'll remember who Minnie is because she married Alec McMaster, and they had 3 children, and the baby is Natalie McMaster. And so Natalie, to me, is my niece, but I always feel I have to explain because she's really not. She's really a cousin, but whatever. So the house was always full of music, and Minnie was full of music. They all were full of music, but Minnie was the one that took it to the stage. And of course, Minnie and Mama, at 2 and 3 years old, they had fun with me and teaching me step dancing. And I caught on. You have to have the music in you and all of that. So between Mama and Minnie and all of this culture that was built within the home of the Gaelic singing and the fiddle playing and the English songs that was what we did for enjoyment, or what they did in that day and age in the 50s, in the 60s for after a long hard day working outside on the farm and lifting and carrying and all of that. So at the age of 4, I danced in my very first concert, and through the years I went forward with that and taught right up until I was married in different concerts. And there was a television show that I went to over in Sydney. Huey and Allen were the hosts, and it was live TV, something like live streaming Facebook. So whatever mistakes you make, you can't recover from. And so anyway, as the years went by, and I was married and at 19, and something was happening with our fiddling and our dancing. There wasn't as many interested, because along came the 60s, along came television. Those external influences became infiltrated. Television came, and before that we were we didn't have those external influences, and so we kept it intact from the time that the people came and settled here from Scotland, and there was Irish people too, and a lot of that stuff stayed pure and beautiful throughout the years until these external influences started filtering in, and then rock and roll happened, and not so many people thought it was very cool to now go to a square dance or learn how to, because there was no teachers as such in my day. You just learned osmosis or whatever you would call it. Just it was just in you and around you, and that timing and that environment was just embedded in your head, the sounds and the rhythm of the steps. And so Joey Beaton from Mabu, a wonderful piano player and from a musical family, called me this one day and said, "We need more step dancers, and there's no teachers. You have to teach a class." And that's what I did. I went to Mabu, and I had, I think, over 30 kids. No idea how to teach, no clue. And I said, okay, we'll do this. And I had, the Rankin family, the beautiful Rankins that, Jimmy and Raylene and Cookie and Heather, a lot of them were in that first class as little ones. And we went on from there, and the step dancing classes started all over Cape Breton. There was lots of people, like there was Kay Hanrahan over in Sydney Way, Jean McNeil, the Bear McNeil's mom, Betty Matheson, Father Eugene Morris. I could go on, and our side was Minnie and Geraldine McIsaac, and the Macquaries, the Fraser girls down in Inverness, Willie Fraser's daughters. So there was a whole multitude. Marion Graham, Patsy Gibson, all of these names that were just saviors of the step dancing, and a whole bunch of step dancers. It just came up along with the fiddle playing. So the opportunities arose for me to go to Scotland back in 1983, and the first time bringing it back to Scotland. So went to Scotland, taught in Denmark, taught for many years at the Valley of the Moon Scottish Fiddling School down in California. Went to Utah to teach at Robert Redford's Film Festival site. He allowed the family. And I spoke of this before on the show, so some of you have known this. And just walking through that facility was just incredible, knowing that Robert Redford was there. And the family that brought us there, Buddy McMaster and I traveled many times together. If you know, Buddy McMaster is a wonderful fiddle player. You know, we had those opportunities to go down to California, and we went to Seattle, Washington. Stan Chapman came too. There was we went to the Yukon to teach at a Scottish games there, Highland Games in Whitehorse in Yukon. Chicago, went to Chicago to teach. There was just a whole movement. People, the people that brought our music, like Buddy McMaster, to the world, then they wanted to, there's dancing that goes with this music, people probably thinking, and said, okay, we want to learn that too, and want to learn square dancing. And the opportunities, you know, had I ever been able to do this, to go to these places on my own, I never would have been able to afford it. But I never had to pay for any of that, because you got a flight out, and they paid for everything and paid you besides. And so it was a little bit of revenue for me and a lot of sightseeing that I never would have seen some of the world. And I judged our kind of Cape Breton style step dancing is not a competitive style, but I used to go over to PEI, and I did that a few times. I was judging their style of dancing, which some of it is a bit different than ours. You know, we have differences in all of our step dancing all over Canada. Wherever it is, there's a different style. Like Natalie's kids have the Ottawa Valley kind of style, I would say, and with a little bit of Cape Breton mixed in. And anyway, I have been so blessed. And Mitchell said to me, Mom, I'll tell you, I have to tell you a little thing that happened this week. I fell down the stairs. On my rear end, I fell down every single solitary step. And yes, I have an awful bruise, you know where, but thank God I did not break a bone. I guess it pays to have a little padding here and there. And but Mitchell said, make sure you tell them about the time you were at the Mabukeli. So the Mabukeli was a concert that's held every year in July 1st weekend. And it was kind of a rainy day, and it was an outdoor concert, and there was a big tarp over the stage, and I taught the kids how to step dance. And back in 1998, that's when all of the kids danced with me for the first time. Prior to that, there was Tammy and I danced together, and then some of the kids danced, and I would teach the twins how to dance, and they were all like 4 and 5 and 6 and whatever. But in 1997 or 1998, I can't remember, we all danced together for the first time at a Celtic Colors concert. But this, going back to this Mabukeli concert, it was raining. And I am serious. We would out on the stage, and we would, like, each kid would get up by themselves and dance. And so Tammy and I went out together, and the rain had started pouring in from the tarp. There was a hole or whatever, and it was on the front of the stage, and I fell. And the kids took the giggles, and I got up and I continued dancing. And when I was trying to back to my place, I fell again, and they took the complete giggles again, and we just kept on dancing, and I didn't break anything, and everybody was in their cars because of the rain, and they were tooting the horns. And you know what? You're lucky to be able to laugh at yourself. And there was somebody who had filmed it, and they sent it to me, and they kept fast forwarding and rewinding in the tape of me going up and down, falling and coming back up. So you have to be able to laugh at yourself. But my I don't teach dancing anymore. I mean, I've had plenty of people come to the house, and I produced two, instructional videos and a DVD over the years. But I taught for maybe over 30 years, and it's the most wonderful part of me that I cherish, and good things come out of bad things that happen. Oh, my mom dying and daddy not being able to take me. I guess my path might have been different, although my mother was a beautiful dancer and beautiful Gaelic singer. But my path to the Beaton home, where I went when I was around 1 year old, as mommy was sick, and then she didn't pass away until I was 3, and then I stayed there basically permanently, although my father kind of wanted me back once I was school age, but mama couldn't part with me. And I didn't know that till I was older, and it's okay, because I got to spend time with him too, and he was a beautiful, wonderful, wonderful man. Oh my God, I've talked for 30 minutes. I set my timer for 30 minutes because I wanted to check it at 30 minutes to see how it is. But I will in a second. That'll keep ringing. But I just wanted to say, it's so important to pass on your culture, whatever culture that you have. And sometimes you want to get away from things that were old fashioned, and when kids don't want to, well, make sure that they embrace the past and learn from the people that they have the how lucky they are to be with their grandparents and to have grandparents around to talk about the old days and old traditions. Baking, music, culture. I think of the cultures we have around here. We have the Mi'kmaq people, beautiful people with lots of tradition. And if there's a Mi'kmaq person that's watching today, one of the things that I want to make with a Mi'kmaq baker is the bannock that they make, similar to our bannock. And I want to research that whole thing, and I'd be very interested to hear more about that. And I might reach out. There's a wonderful young man, Morgan. Morgan, if you're watching with your mom, he is a Mi'kmaq fiddler and singer, and he has a new CD coming out, and he sent me a few cuts of it. He played in the Celtic Colors online festival this year, and oh my gosh, it's just a treat. And once that's out, I'm going to be advertising it on our Sunday show, because they have such a beautiful culture to share. And anyway, that's all I'll say about that for now. But the Acadians and the French people, they have their cultures as well that they share and pass on. So anyway, I'm getting off track here totally, but I'm just going to go check that with my cake tester and see how it's doing, and I'll be right back with you. And I'm going to put my kettle on. Put your kettle on if you're going to have tea with me. Mine was cooked, and that was probably about 35 minutes. So, can you see that? That's it. And if you can see the color there, you can see the color there. It's nicely browned. And so I'm just going to leave it on the cooling rack, and we'll chat some more. Anyway, talking about traditions and whatever, and I mean, if you guys have any questions about Cape Breton and step dancing, whatever, please ask away. But talking about my mother, not only, of course, God love her, not only did she have cancer, but in between all of that, she had tuberculosis and spent a lot of time. Somebody's talking about a timer. Oh my God. I don't know why you guys stick around with me. But a lot of the time she spent in this, it was called, there's a sanitarium, and that's for people who have some mental breakdowns or whatever. But the sanatorium was for those who had tuberculosis, and they would have to stay there, and for I don't know how long, but it seemed to be a long time. And they used to be busy making crafts and whatever. But my sister gave me, I already had one like this, but my sister gave me this just when I was visiting her the other day. My mother made this when she had tuberculosis and was in the hospital. And this is made from washed X-ray film. That is the plastic that's on there. And they would have had the pattern to cut it out of the X-ray film. And then they cut pictures out of magazines to go in between the X-ray film. And then they had, the 100% cotton thread, like not an embroidery thread, but a very thin cotton thread, and crocheted, popped all those little holes in it, and then crocheted around every edge. Think of them making all of this. And yes, I have another one that looks like a little chair. It's a little chair, and that one's much worse shape. But those things, they're so cherished. There's different things inside. There's a wallet that she made, with a leather, with all of that. She made that. They kept them busy, but isn't it so nice to have that? So anyway, that is my life in a quick nutshell on the dancing side of things, and on the mommy and mama and papa sort of thing. There's Sharon saying Dougie McPhee. Dougie McPhee is an amazing piano player. I agree with you. He's wonderful, and he's a friend too. And yeah, he's great. Does anybody have any questions about Cape Breton or about anything in general? I made a box like that years ago using Christmas cards. Yes. My brother-in-law visiting a Cree village. Oh, I missed the rest of that. Anyway, yeah. I had a very sad little encounter just before Christmas, where I was kind of a witness to a Mi'kmaq person being told something not very nicely by an employee. And anyway, I was so saddened to witness that. And he was going through the motions of making a complaint, and they have no reason. This man was judging him, and it was so sad. And he had his young daughter with him, and she had to experience that. So, oh, I forgot to put my microphone back on. But anyway, sometimes you just there's sadness. We don't always think of that if we're not bothered by it, and we're from a small area where it doesn't really affect us, and it's sad to know that it happens, and it does. It really does in our world, and you think we'd know better. Oh, she had an uncle in the Ottawa Valley. Karen Lawson was a fiddle player and a step dancer. Beautiful music out of the Ottawa Valley. I love it. I just love it. So I remember when TB was in Mabu. That's from Tina. She's formerly from Mabu. Hi, Tina. Yes, somebody just loves coming to Mabu. And yes, Tracy, it is shocking when that happens. Oh, I would love to be your guide. Do you know what? I will tell you this. When things are better, when things resume and travel resumes, and some of you beautiful people want to come to Cape Breton, number one, don't forget to check out Google Destination Cape Breton. They have a wonderful page with lots of things, and it's so hard at this time to be promoting tourism when people can't travel, whatever. But that's not to say that these people have not been busy. Both Tourism Nova Scotia and Destination Cape Breton have their sites are full of ideas, and Destination Cape Breton. Check them out. If you wanted to come to Cape Breton or come to Nova Scotia or the East Coast, there's beautiful New Brunswick, PEI. So many have so much to offer on our end of the country too. We're so lucky to live where we live, and the beauty of our land is just incredible. But I was going to say, if you are planning and down the road that you want to come to Cape Breton, the guy, this Ron McCacken, that I have traveled with before on a few tours to Scotland and to Ireland, and was going to go on our Switzerland trip to celebrate this year, would be our 50th wedding anniversary in the fall. And we were going to go to Switzerland and Czech Republic, and where else were we going? Austria, Germany was the 4-country tour. But that's not to say that it can't happen, but I don't know if it will. But Ron is a local. He lives here in Port Hood, but if you asked him where he's from, he'd say Hawthorne. That's a back road. He lives in Hawthorne, and he's so proud of saying he's from Hawthorne, and so is his tour company. And it's called Sandy Travel Tours. Look that up, Sandy Travel Tours. But he he has been doing some Cape Breton tours, and especially on our side of the island, doing a tour of the western side of the island where I live, and I would love to be a part of it too. And many times, he would say, we can do a couple of days. It's a 2 or 3 day tour, and music and wonderful stuff can happen on that. So write that down, Sandy Travel Tours. And I bet you in 2022, there'll be some of those tours that will happen. And I would love to be a part of it, and we could have a dandy little get together. Okay, on my kettle boiled, I'm going to set my tea, and I'm going to cut the coffee cake. Now, about the coffee cake, if you want to amp it up a little bit, it's fine. It'll stand just fine on its own when it's nice, just warm. That's when I like it best, when it's just warm. I'll probably be eating it a little too warm today just to have my tea with you, but that's okay. But if you want to amp it up a little bit, if you could make a a homemade frosting like you did for the shortbread cookies, but just make it really, as Mama would say, make it swilly so that it's just runny. And you just put it in a baggie and tiny, teeny hole on the end of a baggie and just drizzle it all over the top of it while it's warm and back again the opposite way. That gives it that tiny little touch of extra sweetness and could be a great dessert. Or Mama's caramel sauce, you know, that in itself is delightful, especially with the combination of the cinnamon and the brown sugar. So you could do that too. Today, I'm just going to be having it plain. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, just hold on a second, and I am going to put my tea on. Okay, I have my tea in my beautiful cup my friend Marjorie's family gave me in memory of her. And this is one of the plates. But there is the coffee cake. It looks so good. I have a piece. Somebody's asking about the recipes and where I save them. I paste the recipe on my Facebook page 15 minutes before the show starts. It's just the text, and you can copy and paste that if you like. But to get a better copy of my recipes, go to my website. And there is a recipe category on my website under recipes. And all of the recipes are PDF format and printable from there. So best place to go for the recipe is off my website. And the website is www.tunesandwoodenspoons.com. And there's various headings there. There's a store there, whatever. And you'll find the recipes there. And we're not up to date on the tutorials there, but on YouTube, we pretty much are up to date on the videos on the website. So anyway, folks, oh my gosh, it's so good. This is really good. I like it so much better without the apple in it. And, you know, to amp it up, yeah, the caramel would make it really nice, but this is so good warm. And it's really nice, light cake. Oh, look at that. So, hi, Anne Marie. She's probably from here. Sandra Percy. Hi. Shirley Williams, how are you? Anyway, here is my tea. Good strong cup of king cold tea. I took a shortcut today. I didn't let it sit and steep like I always do because I'm keeping you too long. But I made it a tea bag in a cup and really quick. So anyway, people, that's it for this Sunday. And I hope that you'll come back next Sunday and we'll have some apple crisp. We have some great entertainment lined up that's going to be here over the next several weeks. And I really know that you will enjoy that. I know we have a good, there's a really good session coming up. Probably when I make the bread, I have an herb bread that I like to make with lasagna and any Italian dish, and it's really easy. It's really kind of a French bread recipe, and you add your herbs to it. But we'll do that perhaps on that day. And well, this is it. Like I really did miss doing this with you last Sunday, and I really appreciate all of the wonderful comments that you made. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope all of you follow your New Year's resolutions. I know I have some. Sunday's my treat day, so I'm really going to work on myself and work on losing some weight. But on Sunday, it's going to be my little treat day. And I wish all of you good luck who might be trying to do the same thing. I realized when I couldn't be here last Sunday that how much you have become a part of my life. And like I always like to say, you matter to me. And I'm glad that I matter to you. And I love that we're able to share these recipes and to have a good time and have a good visit right here in my little kitchen in Port Hood, Cape Breton. So everyone, thank you for joining me today, and have an absolutely wonderful week. And I love you. Love everybody.